Imagine a world where nothing feels real anymore. Not your thoughts, not your body, not even the space around you. You look at life and yet you cannot touch it. You see, but you do not feel. This is not a dream. It is not madness. It is not fiction. It is depersonalization derealization disorder, a condition that quietly disconnects your mind from reality itself. DPDR affects roughly 1 to 2% of people in Western countries, though many live with it for years without knowing its name. The mind drifts into a haze, a limbo where you are awake but detached. You participate, but only as a shadow of yourself. Days stretch endlessly, memories feel hollow, and emotions fade like a distant echo. To understand DPDR, we need to separate its two core elements: depersonalization and derealization. Depersonalization is a detachment from your own body and thoughts. Imagine observing your own hands moving, your words coming out of your mouth, and feeling as though they belong to someone else. Your thoughts feel borrowed, your emotions feel muted. You are present, but not present. Derealization is the detachment from the world. Streets, buildings, even familiar faces start to feel surreal, as if you are watching life through a fogged lens. The world is recognizably real, yet everything seems slightly off. Colors are dull, sounds echo strangely, and ordinary spaces appear artificial. You know the world exists, but it has lost its texture. Brief experiences of depersonalization or derealization are common. Stress, trauma, or exhaustion can trigger these sensations temporarily, but for millions, they persist. Persistent DPDR is not just unsettling, it is debilitating. It erodes the basic sense of self, leaving a hollow awareness where life once felt vibrant. Clinical studies in the United States and United Kingdom report that about 1% of the general population experiences chronic DPDR. In psychiatric settings, the prevalence can be much higher. Up to 40% of patients may report significant dissociation. Anxiety disorders, depression, panic disorder, and trauma histories all increase the risk. People who experience DPDR describe it in ways that are almost impossible to forget. One individual wrote, "I feel like I am observing my life through a thick glass. My thoughts, my movements, my emotions, they all feel distant, like someone else is living my life." Another described, "Days feel like echoes. Memories are like blurry photographs. I can hear laughter, but it feels unreal. I am present, but I do not participate." These are not dramatic exaggerations. They come from case studies, clinical interviews, and online forums where sufferers share their experiences. Websites and Reddit communities dedicated to DPDR host tens of thousands of members, exchanging stories, coping strategies, and fears. What makes DPDR uniquely terrifying is its invisibility. There are no scars, no bruises, no outward signs, yet it corrodes life itself, creating a world that is recognizable but unreachable. The horror is subtle, it is quiet, it is intimate. Neuroscience has begun to reveal why this happens. Studies show that areas of the brain responsible for self-awareness, sensory integration, and emotional processing function differently in those with DPDR. The prefrontal cortex, which governs attention and self-reflection, shows altered connectivity with the limbic system, which processes emotion. Brain scans reveal disrupted communication between sensory and emotional centers. The mind sees and hears, but cannot fully integrate the experience. Electrophysiological studies further confirm this. EEG patterns in DPDR patients show atypical activity, particularly in the temporal and parietal lobes, regions critical for perceiving the self in relation to the world. Functional MRI studies support these findings, demonstrating altered neural pathways. The mind's protective mechanisms, designed to reduce overwhelm during stress, can persist long after the initial trigger, resulting in chronic detachment. The lived experience is uncanny. Imagine walking down a familiar street. You recognize the buildings, the sidewalks, the sounds, but it all feels staged, dreamlike, unreal. Imagine talking to a friend. Their voice, their expressions feel distant, like an echo. You remember your own laughter, but it belongs to someone else. Emotions flatten. Joy and sadness alike feel hollow. Life continues, yet you are a spectator rather than a participant. Unlike traditional fear, DPDR is internally generated. There is no predator, no shadow, no external threat. The terror comes from within, the mind that observes but cannot fully inhabit the world. DPDR itself does not cause direct physical danger, but its psychological consequences are profound. Persistent detachment is strongly linked to anxiety, depression, social withdrawal, and impaired daily functioning. Emotional numbness can become so severe that individuals question whether life itself matters. Long-term studies document that people with chronic DPDR often report feelings of emptiness, disconnection, and an inability to engage meaningfully with the world. Despite its prevalence, DPDR remains under-researched. Many sufferers go years without an accurate diagnosis. Misdiagnosis is common, with symptoms often attributed to stress, anxiety, or depression. Patients are sometimes told, "It's just stress," or "You're imagining it." Online communities have become essential spaces for understanding and support. Forums provide a place to describe experiences, ask questions, and find validation. Members often share coping strategies, including grounding techniques, sensory exercises, and mindfulness practices. These communities highlight both the human cost of DPDR and the lack of clinical attention it receives. Therapeutic strategies can help. Cognitive behavioral therapy offers tools to reconnect with reality. Grounding techniques, such as focusing on touch, sound, or breathing, provide temporary relief. Medications, particularly those addressing anxiety or depression, can alleviate symptoms for some patients, but outcomes vary widely, and there is no universal solution. The horror of DPDR is in the subtle erosion of reality. There are no loud shocks, no violent attacks, no monsters. The terror lies in the quiet alienation of the self. Everyday experiences become uncanny. Objects feel distant. Voices echo. Familiar surroundings feel unreal. The mind becomes a spectator in its own life. DPDR overlaps with other mental health conditions. Anxiety disorders, depression, PTSD, and borderline personality traits are common comorbidities. Yet DPDR is distinct. It is not delusion, not psychosis. Reality remains. The self exists. But the connection between them is frayed, fragile, and inconsistent. The psychological impact is profound. Sufferers report existential anxiety, the sensation that life is happening without them. They can describe their detachment intellectually, but knowing does not restore the feeling of being present. The mind becomes both observer and observed, trapped in a loop of unmoored awareness. Physiologically, DPDR carries measurable stress. Heart rate variability, galvanic skin response, and cortisol levels indicate that the body experiences threat signals even when conscious awareness is detached. The mismatch between perception and bodily response creates further unease, amplifying the sense of unreality. DPDR can persist for years, sometimes decades. Episodes may fluctuate, with periods of clarity interspersed with profound detachment. This unpredictability exacerbates anxiety, as sufferers cannot anticipate when reality will feel grounded or unreachable. Trauma is a common factor. Survivors of abuse, neglect, or severe stress are more likely to develop chronic DPDR. The mind's natural defense mechanisms, which help to cope with overwhelming experiences, become maladaptive when persistent. Despite the challenges, DPDR is not hopeless. Many learn strategies to reconnect with reality. Grounding exercises, mindfulness, structured routines, and therapeutic support help anchor awareness. Even fleeting moments of clarity, when the world feels vivid and present, provide hope. Philosophically, DPDR challenges assumptions about consciousness, self, and reality. If perception can detach from the world, how do we define the experience of life itself? How do we measure reality when perception is altered? For those living with DPDR, these are not abstract questions, they are daily realities. Forums and online communities reveal creative coping mechanisms. Individuals describe focusing on textures, sounds, and sensations. They track time, name objects, or repeat simple actions to create anchors in reality. These methods do not cure the disorder, but they offer fleeting moments of reconnection. Clinically, DPDR is recognized as a dissociative disorder. It is a mental state characterized by altered perception and self-awareness. Recognition in diagnostic manuals has helped frame research and treatment, though the disorder remains less studied than depression or PTSD. The United States and United Kingdom have documented prevalence, symptoms, and impacts. Population studies, clinical case reports, and longitudinal research confirm the psychological toll and functional impairment. DPDR may be rare, but its effects are significant, impacting social interaction, emotional engagement, and quality of life. The psychological horror of DPDR comes from its subtlety. There is no external threat. The terror is internal, pervasive, and inescapable. Life is experienced as a dreamlike echo, familiar yet alien. Sufferers are aware of their detachment, which adds to the distress. They recognize the abnormality of their experience, but cannot alter it. Consciousness becomes both the observer and the observed, creating profound anxiety. Even with therapy, DPDR remains challenging. Relief is often temporary, fluctuating with stress, fatigue, or emotional intensity. The lived experience is a mixture of connection and detachment, clarity and fog. DPDR illuminates the fragility of consciousness. It demonstrates how perception can fracture, how the mind can protect itself in extreme situations, and how that protection can persist beyond its usefulness. The cost is profound, the erosion of the sense of being alive, of inhabiting your own life. Ultimately, DPDR is a quiet, persistent horror. No monsters, no attacks, no shadows, just a hollow awareness, an invisible presence that watches life while being unable to fully participate. If you have ever felt disconnection, you are not alone. DPDR is real, documented, and studied. Awareness, therapy, and coping strategies can help bridge the gap between perception and reality. But even with support, the disorder reminds us how fragile consciousness truly is. Sometimes, the most terrifying monsters are not in the dark corners of the world, but in the quiet, hollow corridors of the mind. Depersonalization Derealization Disorder is one such monster. Invisible, persistent, and profoundly unsettling. It does not chase. It does not attack. It does not roar. It waits. It pervades. It observes. And it reminds us that reality, as we experience it, is a gift that cannot always be taken for granted.